Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Motorsport Experience Podcast. This podcast is made by motorsport enthusiasts for motorsport enthusiasts with the idea of just spreading out the information, spreading the inspiration, and keeping us all kind of connected with that passion that we all experience riding bikes or driving cars, be it on the dirt track or be it on a racetrack. It's a passion that unites us. So my idea is just to explore as many stories as possible of what it's like for people to be involved in that sport, spread the word, and as I said, inspire others. So in this episode, I have a guest, Jarrod Burton, and I'll let him introduce himself. I've met him at the Dacre rally recently, and so this episode will be about the experience of that rally and possibly other things that he has done. So I'll let you introduce yourself.
All right. I'm Jarrod Burton. I'm a motorsports enthusiast, mostly dirt, but I love asphalt racing too, on bikes and cars. Any type of racing I love. What I love the most is endurance. So think Baja 1000, things like that, Vegas to Reno, those sort of, and dirt. So my passion is for dirt racing, but not like short. I love motocross, but that's not for me. I'm more into the endurance type stuff. So I started racing in the early 2000s on downhill mountain bikes. That was my first introduction to any type of racing. I did that for quite a number of years. And then stopped in probably 2005-ish, sort of when mountain bikes started not being cool anymore. And then life just took over and didn't really do anything. And then started riding dirt bikes again in 2012. And then did my first motorcycle race in 2016. And it was a horrible failure. I had no idea what I was getting into. I treated it like a mountain bike race, and it's nothing like a mountain bike race. Found out that I needed some conditioning and things like that. But and then what I gained from that first race was I'm like a pretty shy, I'm an introverted guy. And so what I noticed about that first race was there's no information and there was no help. I had no idea what I was doing. Tried to ask people, everybody's busy and you don't get you just don't get the right answers. So, and try to ask the organizers who are crazy busy themselves. I just wasn't getting anywhere. And it was really frustrating, especially for somebody that's, again, introverted, kind of shy. So after that race, I decided, you know what, I'm going to start my own race program, my own race team. And my goal was to just help as many people as I can with that kind of stuff. And that's how Hell Fury Motorsports was born. It was sort of like, I wasn't interested in sponsoring like a pro rider or anything like that. It was all like, get them on the ground level like me and help out as much as possible. And that's how it was started. And it just kind of went from there.
Wow, that's really incredible. And your journey is very interesting. And the reason I say that is because when I was part of the motorsport on a paved road racing track, my biggest thing that I saw was how everybody was united in that experience, because everybody knew exactly what they were doing. There was no need to explain anything because everybody kind of went into it already knowing what the role is for them, what they need to do, and how to go races. So it's interesting that you mentioned how they had challenges just getting into it. And I think that might be a deterrent to some people who are just not sure how to even begin. For some people, it's easy to start, but others might be having challenges just kind of getting through the door because they don't have enough information. So it's interesting that now your business is helping others get easier into the sport, because there is so much joy in that sport. There should be no block like that of entry for anybody. So how long have you been doing it? Since 2012?
No, I had bought a dirt bike again in 2012. So I think 2017, yeah. I think my first race was 2016, and then the following year started Hell Fury, and been going since. Yeah, various degrees of how big it's been. Probably I'd say 2019 was probably the biggest, like with the most amount of riders, and like I sponsored Off-Road Ontario. I sponsored SOAR, the SOAR road racing program. And then I sponsored a CSBK rider, and then a bunch of Off-Road Ontario riders as well. And I basically was like helping so many people that I stopped racing myself, which in hindsight was kind of good, because after the first year of like trying it, like 2017 was, or 2016, I think it was 2016, the first couple of races I did, it was just brutal, like not getting results that I wanted. You know, everybody wants to, you know, nobody wants to go to a race and come in last, or they always want to win, right? And I'm very competitive. So of course I thought I got to be pretty good. Like I can go fast, but I found out really quickly that there's a lot of really fast riders, and I'm not as fast as I think I am. So I needed some work. Definitely needed some work. So I quit racing because I was helping everybody else, and just this year was basically like my top rider. He kind of he didn't leave, but he went to a different program. He turned pro, needed a little more help, like more than I could provide. So he sourced out some more help, and it kind of like, I felt like it just freed up some time for me. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to do these races myself, because I've really wanted to do them. The Dacre has been on my mind basically since 2012, essentially. Like as soon as I heard about it, I was like, that's something I have to do. And 2021 was the first time I got to do it. So it's been in my mind for that long. And then this Northeast 24-hour challenge race that I did on the following weekend from the Dacre this year. Again, as soon as I found out about that, it was like, I have to do this. This is crazy. Like, this is just nuts. And I love that stuff. Like, short races are fun. I love watching Supercross, you know, in the winter, you know, you throw on the TV for 2 hours and you watch some Supercross, but to go and compete for 2 hours at a cross country race, it's kind of like, I'm 45 years old. I don't have that, leave it all on the table for 2 hours, but I can dial it back and go for 24 hours and do really well. So yeah, I love that stuff. I love endurance stuff. So
yeah, that makes sense, because as we get older, our bodies start getting a little weaker, not like we were when we were in our 20s, but we still want to do a lot of things, and there's still a lot of things that we can do. And so it's interesting how some endurance events provide that opportunity for us to venture out. So when you're looking back, what's the most memorable racing or endurance event that you can think back to?
Well, you know what, the Northeast 24-hour challenge was just incredible. I can't, like, what I thought it was going to be, it just wasn't. It was way harder than I expected. It was, this year they did a different venue. It was just, there was so much stuff to battle. I had my own battles, you know, I had some bad crashes, thought maybe I might have had a concussion, and then I had a broken bike for a little while. I had all these I had all these excuses to just throw in the towel and not continue. But I just took my time, and in a cross country race, you can't do that. Or like a a short race, you can't do that. If you're out, you're out, right? And there's no making it up. So I was able to just kind of collect myself and, spend some. I thought I had a concussion, so I spent some time off the bike, and my headache went away, and I realized, okay, I probably don't have a concussion. I just run, I run my bell pretty good, but and I was able to continue, and I had a pretty good result, all things considered. I could have done better if, what if everybody says that, right? But it I want to do it again, and it was so difficult. And I know you had Stephanie on, and I met Stephanie there, and like, what a incredible experience. And she did it, like, we were right beside each other, and just to see her progression and what I was doing and what she was doing. And then we had Canadians just across the way from us that were on teams, which is how I'm going to do it next time. I'm going to do it on a team, so I don't have to ride all the time. But yeah, that one was really memorable. You know what? The thing about racing is usually the people that you meet is what you tend to remember. And I met some wonderful people. I hope to stay friends with them for my entire life. They're just, great human beings. And but putting myself through that, knowing that I'm pretty strong-willed. I know that I can put up with a lot of, you can throw a lot of negativity at me and I'll plow through it. And that was just one of those events where it's like, it just kept coming. Like, okay, well, we're going to do this now. We're going to throw this at you now, see how you react. And yeah, really, really difficult, and pretty pleased to come out and be able to finish it and do as well as I did.
Yeah, it's interesting how you mentioned the community and the difficulties, because I always perceived motorsports and racing as a metaphor for life, because how you take a turn, how you take a corner in racing is how you take a corner in life. How you deal with those challenges in the race is essentially how you're going to deal it off the track. And so I always found it to be incredibly interesting, the community aspect and that aspect of dealing with the challenges and facing things head on. What is your perception of the community in general? Because I always perceived that the motorsports was rather a small world. Everybody kind of knows each other, but everybody has really strong connections with each other.
Yeah, they do. And you know what? And this goes back to my first race. Like, it's hard to, there are some cliques, like there's some cliquey groups, like this group only hangs out with these guys, whatever, right? Like, there's always that kind of stuff, but it's small. Like, there's only a little bit of it. And then there's other people that are just, like Ian, which is Stephanie's partner. He just knows everybody. Like, I met him at the 24-hour race, and I was like, oh, do you know this guy? And he's like, yeah, I know him, and I rode with him, and I built trails with him, and I built those. It's just one of those types of people that just knows everybody, right? I find that it's hard to break in, like it's not like a, it's kind of like a circle, and you have to find a way into it. And once you get in and you're sort of accepted, I don't know if it's like, there's a lot of like, guys or girls, people that come in and they're in and out really quick, and people don't want to waste their time, trying to get to know all these people, or I don't know what it is, but it seems like if you show up and you're there routinely, and you're and you just keep coming back, eventually those friendships grow, right? And you get to know all those people, and it's hard to break into, but once you break into it, you're accepted. And it's like, when I broke my bike, I was just like, I have enough. it was Ian that went and found me a guy that just happened to have a brake lever that fit my bike, like, because I have a bike that nobody else has. And it was like, I never asked him. It was just, he just, yeah, this is what I do. I'm going to go do this. And it's just like, once you become friends with these people, it's like they'll do anything for you. It's crazy. And I find it in asphalt racing as well. Like when I was working with a CSBK racer, like, these guys are competing for sponsors and dollars and that sort of thing. And, the bike's broke down. It's the guy that you're competing against is giving you a part or whatever. It's kind of crazy, but it's like, you have to, I guess it's just the way it is, right? I don't want to beat you because your bike is broken. I want to beat you because I'm faster than you. So get out on the track. And it's like that, right?
Yeah, in my experience, I noticed that those with bigger egos would have the longest time fitting in, because for them, it would be all based on proving themselves that they belong there. But those people who would come with willingness to help, and open mind, open heart, they fit in almost instantly. So that has been my perception. And that is kind of how I've been approaching the sport as well. Not being able to race myself, I was there always in the supporting role. And in the supporting role, there's no competition for me. So it was really easy to kind of connect with everybody and just have fun. For longest time, motorsport world has been like my vacation away from the regular job, to take your mind off of things. And I ride on the street as well with the same intent, to just kind of put my life in the away for a moment and experience that moment of being one with the road, one with the bike, and you just put the helmet on and the rest of the world disappears. And so I'm curious to know, what is your experience of the riding itself?
I guess, the first word that I was thinking of was freedom. I feel very free on a motorcycle, whether it's on my street bike or the dirt bike. I don't know what it is about, like, I love riding on the street, but it's just something about a dirt bike and I'm working with Segway, and I get, access to four-wheelers and side-by-sides, and that's great. I love them. It's so much fun. But nothing compares to just ripping on a dirt bike and feeling free. It's just like, I always, when I'm out riding with my friends, I always think of, like, those like surf, like the soul searching surfers and stuff from like the early 80s and stuff like that, right? Like, that's how I feel. I feel like I'm just out here. There's nothing else. It's just this and the dirt and a smile on your face. And it's hard. I guess I don't know exactly how to explain it, but everybody has something. And I hope whatever that is for everybody, I hope they get to do it a lot. Because if they get to do what they love and it makes them feel like I feel on my dirt bike, then the whole world should be the happiest place. Like, we should all be the happiest people. We just got to find that thing and do it. And that's how I feel about it. It's just, I don't know, it sounds kind of cliche, but it's just all love, right? I just love to do it.
Yeah, and there's actually, I know exactly what you mean, and there's actually even a scientific explanation for what you are talking about, and it's called being in the zone. And there are certain aspects to what happens to us when we're doing that activity that we love the most. The part of our brain that is our inner critic just goes away for a moment. And for me, that is why I feel the most free, because my inner critic is quiet. And when that happens, there's more ideas, more inspiration coming, and more joy is able to be released so that I can enjoy the activity more. And so for you, I'm curious why the dirt bike is more freeing than other forms of riding or driving. Why do you think that is?
I don't know. I think, like, the only thing I can equate it to with the street bike is I'm so hyper aware of all the other drivers around. And so you just kind of can't, you can't when you're going fast on a dirt bike, you can't take your mind off of what you're doing either. But I'm not worried about others, right? In that situation. When I'm on the road, I'm always constantly worrying about other drivers. So on the dirt bike, when I'm just on a trail, like it's just me. I'm the only one I'm in control of this whole situation. So I think that's part of it. How it equates to side-by-sides and four-wheelers, man, I don't know what it is. It's just, there's just too many wheels. I don't know. But it's like, I did the Dacre this year in a side-by-side. I did it last year on a four-wheeler, and I had the time of my life each time. Like each time was a different experience. And it was fantastic. But then I went and did the 24-hour thing on my dirt bike, and it's like, this is it. Like, as hard as this was, as crappy as I felt at times, I was just like, there's no other place I'd rather be. Is right here. I don't care how fast I am. I don't care how slow I am. It doesn't matter. It's right here, going through this hell at times is where I want to be, because I just feel free, and it's good for me. It's just good for me.
Yeah. One of the hypotheses that I have is being in the zone state requires us to be hyper aware of our feedback from the body, feedback from the machine. It's called it's kind of interoceptual awareness of our body and how it's moving. And so what I've heard from other people that I interviewed is that common thread that riding a bike, it's almost like dancing. There's so much movement happening as you're riding. You're getting a lot of feedback from the machine and from your body. And that allows for the most focus to happen. And so my hypothesis is that when somebody drives a car, there's a lot less of that happening, because you're sitting on a seat, you're holding a wheel, and there's not so much side-to-side movement because there's four wheels and not two. So I wonder if that could be the reason why some people are more prone to experiencing more joy on two wheels, because it allows for more movement.
It could be part of it, for sure. I think in the doing the side-by-side thing, there's a lot of movement. I was getting thrown around pretty good, but I think you're right. You're not as connected to everything. On a bike, you're very connected. It's just, it's your feet and your hands, and then the tires on the dirt, and there's only two tires, and it's a fairly small contact patch, and so maybe you're hyper aware, just like you are on the street, but it's hyper aware of different things, right? But I like that sort of comparison. It's like dancing, because it is. You're constantly moving around, and the bike's going one way, you're going one way, and to make it go where you want it to go, it is a little bit of a dance, yeah.
Which makes me want to say to people, like, even if you don't think you can dance, there are ways to get your body into the movement, whatever way it might be. It might be climbing a rope, it could be riding a motorcycle, it could be something that will provide the same amount of joy. And people should look into that aspect, because we have our bodies for a reason. And if we use them to the level to which we get the most feedback possible, we can get the most satisfaction from those activities. So for example, running is pretty straightforward. You're just going in a straight line. There's no side movements. It's kind of pretty much straight on. But doing others activity, whichever closest to dancing, would provide a totally different engagement in the brain and in the physiology that can shift the mindset and open up more opportunities for perception. So that's kind of my point to that, and how if people never rode bikes on a track or on a trail, they should try it because of that aspect. And so I would like to see what your perception was of the Dacre, because it was 24-hour, it was endurance. What was your experience of the whole thing, driving side by side, with comparison to the previous event? What stands out the most from the Dacre event?
Stands out the most? I think the difficulty this year was certainly ramped up. Like I did it last year on a four-wheeler. I think I was probably faster. I think I can do things faster on a four-wheeler. And it just felt more difficult this year. but it's Rally Connex does an amazing job of making. They just do an amazing job of making those courses. I know the trails are already there, but it's the linking it together. And of course, they did a crazy amount of trail clearing this year. Again, it's the length of it, right? And I think that's what kind of separates people who are going to do well and people that aren't. It is long. People don't realize that it's not just trail riding. It's, if you want to compete, like if you want to be competitive, you have to take it seriously, and you have to be good at navigation, and you have to keep moving. And I remember being right on the start line, and I've been fortunate to be kind of friends with Lee, and he came over, and when I was just about ready to go, and he said, smooth and steady. And that was it. And he's so right. It's just, you don't have to be the fastest, but you have to just keep going. You have to constantly be moving. It's just epic. Driving a side-by-side at the Dacre was phenomenal. It was just, again, it's at that moment, like when I'm in the moment, I'm thinking that there's no better place to be than this right here. Like, this is the greatest thing to be doing. And I like to say I take it seriously, and I do, because I'm so competitive, right? So as soon as that flag drops, it's like, I want to beat everyone. And that's me taking it seriously. But at the same time, I'm enjoying the entire experience, right? The difficulty of it really kind of stuck out this year, because the year before was, I think, because of COVID protocols, they had to cut it short, and it was a little disappointing. It was still fun, don't get me wrong. It was a great course, but kind of had to cut it short, and it was later in the year, so they started later, and they were worried about people being able to finish. And so yeah, I've only done it twice, so and I hope to do it every year.
Yeah, it certainly was a really, really great event. It was my first one that I was exposed to, so I loved it right from the start, and that's why I love talking about it so much. And because it was so long, I wonder what was your experience of focusing for that long, the entire day, and compared to your competitive races where you are racing against each other and there is a clear indication of how you can win. This was a lot more classes, a lot more spread out for a longer. So what was your focus like?
I'm able to stay focused pretty good. Like almost hyper focused for very long periods of time. I don't know how. I think I don't know exactly how I was able to develop this, but I think part of it comes from the job that I have, and I'm a utility arborist by trade. So I'm constantly working around energized live power lines and trimming trees. So it's just like a lineman, they're constantly working around energized lines, but I'm removing branches, and every branch that touches the line is now energized, and if it's touching me, it's bad news, right? So everything I do I had to stay very, very focused to what I was doing all day. And I think that's training my mind a little bit to stay focused for long periods of time. There were times during the Dacre where I would wander, and I had this stupid song stuck in my head. Couldn't get it out. I don't remember what it is now, thank God. But I staying focused is very, very easy for me. And one thing that I think translates from bikes to the side-by-sides really, really well is picking lines quickly. Lots of times when you're doing a cross-country race or an enduro or something, there's only one line. It's single track, and one line, you have no choices, right? You have to ride it. But when you get into wider terrain, you can kind of choose where you want to go or want to set up for a corner and stuff like that. And with the side-by-sides and the four-wheelers, with all the rock scrambling and stuff like that, you have to choose your lines fairly quickly if you want to stay smooth and steady, right? And then you have to make good line choices. If you make a bad line choice, now you're not smooth and steady anymore, right? So yeah, it's if you're being able to stay focused and then taking the years of riding and then kind of focusing that into picking lines is how it's just for me anyway, is how I'm able to stay smooth and steady on the trail.
That is very interesting. And one thing that jumps out straight from your description is that in order for us to focus better, we actually need risk. Risk improves the focus. And training a focus takes actually lasts. It has lasting effects. So it's interesting that you mentioned that in your job, because you have such a high risk factor, you're focused so intently, but as a result, it seems that it has translated over other areas of your life, and you're able to focus better on other aspects as well, because you trained yourself through that addition of risk. And there's also, of course, risk on the trail when you're riding. So that is very interesting that I noticed. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. That's the only explanation I can have for it. I mean, I think when I was a child, like I was probably the child that would have been diagnosed with ADHD. Like I couldn't sit still, and well, I did okay in high school once I got to sort of able to I was able to focus better, but I probably would have been an ADHD child, but they didn't diagnose kids back when I was a kid. It just wasn't a diagnosis then. So yeah, going from that, like my childhood memories to being like all over the place to what I'm able to do while, you know, especially in the side-by-side and on the four-wheeler was the same thing. I think I'm able to focus better on four wheels than I am on the bike, which is, again, interesting. I don't know. It's I don't know.
That is interesting, yes. And also another thing that jumps out at me, that it seems that possibly highly energetic people need that dynamic environment. Like trimming branches is pretty dynamic. You're out there doing things. You're not sitting at the desks. And added risk allows you to focus better. So it's possible that those people who have a highly energetic personalities need to be involved with their entire body in whatever it is that they're doing. And they possibly need a little bit of risk present so that they can focus better. And maybe that is like a solution for those people who can't sit still. They are totally normal. They just need to be engaged with their body a lot more. And it's possible that we have kind of grown so comfortable in our creature comforts that we don't have opportunities for enough of those involvements, or people just don't think that far of how they can engage themselves more. So it's something to consider. If anybody is out there who has a lot of energy, you probably should go out there and do something dynamic so that you can engage your entire body. And so my next question is, what do you perceive creativity to be like in general? What is your perception or experience of creativity?
I don't know. I don't know how to answer that. My perception of creativity.
It's a pretty abstract concept. So
yeah.
Well, how do you perceive yourself to be creative? When you're trimming branches, for example, what is creativity when you are working on the high power lines?
Yeah, you know, there's no real creativity for me there. There's a standard, right? And you just kind of go with the standard, and that's sort of how I'm able to focus, I guess. There's a standard and there's something to kind of, this is how you got to do it. Like creativity for me is again, it's kind of being free. It's like I'm a musician as well, so when I'm trying to think of like when I really want to go play guitar or something like that. I don't know. it's freedom. It's kind of freedom because you can do whatever you want, right? If you're drawing a picture, it doesn't have to be, there's no set boundaries to anything. And same with music. I mean, other than you have a kind of a musical scale, but what you do with that scale it's up to you, right? You're free to do whatever you want and make the music that you want, or make the picture that you want. So it's a way of, again, I think people that are I think people that are really good artists and constantly doing it. I don't play music that much, but I think they might feel the same way I do when I'm in the zone flying on my dirt bike. Like they might have that same sort of feeling of being free and having no constraints, right?
Yeah,
that's how that feels to me. It feels free and there's nothing holding me back.
yeah. And so is there an element of creativity present for you on the trail, on the bike, or in side by side?
For sure. Like smooth and steady. And in order to be that, you have to be creative with how you're going to navigate all the terrain that's in front of you, right? And it's constantly changing. Every corner there's something different. So yeah, like I think it comes in there. Like you have to, I guess, how fast you can think and to try and get through something quicker than, try and make up time. You have to be creative, because everybody can kind of just plow through stuff, right? But if you can find a way through things better or faster, I think it definitely relates to that kind of stuff for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely creativity is one of those subjects that you can discuss for hours. And it's interesting that you are a musician as well. So you totally understand where I'm coming from. And my personal observation was that there was a lot of creativity that was innate. People didn't realize that they were creative, but the way they chose the lines, the way they chose to operate their machine and when to let go of gas and when to put more gas, that is, in my view, a representation of creativity in action, of how to go about and how to tackle the next obstacle. And if there's a big water puddle in a way, what do you do about that? So things like that.
Yeah, for sure. And everybody does it differently too. So like very rarely do two minds pick the same exact line, right? Again, unless it's, your tiny little Canadian or Ontario trail that's just bar width, you have no choice. So you have to go there, right? They're taking the creativity away from you, but yeah, it definitely translates onto the trail for sure, big time. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
and
I was going to say vehicle as well, whether it's your bike, or a side by side, and not just like how it looks, but I mean like how you set your bike up, soft suspension, hard suspension. I want my bike to be able to do this, that kind of stuff. You can get creative with that kind of stuff too.
absolutely, that's a very good point. Setting up of the machinist part, because what I observed from others that were exploring their story is that it became a combination of man and the machine in the wilderness. It was a merging of the two, and that's what produced such an extraordinary results and experience, in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure. You have to understand. You have to understand your machine in order to finish those events. You can't just plow through stuff. You have to understand the capabilities of your machine, and you have to understand what it's doing beneath you, or yeah, well, I guess I'm still sitting in it, so beneath me, but all around me. You have to understand it and get it right. So, or else, you'll never finish. It's too hard. Like, and
Yeah,
I talk to some people and they think it's not hard. Honestly, like they think it's not that difficult. It's like, you got to try it, man, because it's not as easy as you think, right? You can go jump in your car and go drive 600 kilometers and yeah, it's fine. Anybody can do that. And at 100 kilometers an hour, you can do that in 6 hours, but try and do it on trail when things break or someone's in your way. There's a water hole to get through. There's riders to get around. it's so not easy. It's just,
It definitely is challenging, and everybody has mentioned that it was rather challenging, but that was the best part of the experience. And did you have any support crew or anybody who was waiting for you at the checkpoints, or did you do everything by yourself?
I had a mechanic. Yeah, I had a chase mechanic for sure. He knows the machines really, really well. So if I had any problems, he was there to help. Luckily, the machine performed flawlessly. It was just gas and go. So we did, yeah. But I don't think I'd want to do it on a large vehicle like that without some type of support for sure.
Yeah, totally makes sense. And so I'm curious what your experience was of feeling connected. What were you feeling connected to? There were other riders who were in a group, so it's easy to imagine that they all felt connected in a group, and other riders who went together. But those, I'm curious about those who went solo for the entire duration of the day. And even though you met with your mechanic at checkpoints, on the trail, you were always alone. And so did you feel connection to the nature, or did you feel connection to the people at the in your life in general? What was it like?
For me, I feel really connected to the machine, especially for that event. And honestly, I remember going. I think we were just at the resort. Can't remember the name of the resort that we went through.
Sunny Hill.
Sunny Hill Resort. I passed a lookout, and it was, I went by it so fast. And I remember saying to myself, I got to stop and smell the flowers once in a while, but I didn't. And I just kept going because I would have had to back up and do with a machine, it's so much more difficult. But that was kind of the one moment there that I was like thinking to myself, thinking about the nature around me. I know there's beautiful things to see out there, and I'm missing it all, right? Because during that event, I felt so connected to that vehicle. Yeah, I felt like a part of it. It was pretty cool. And I felt like I could just make it do whatever I wanted. Or I could just do whatever I wanted, and it wasn't making it do anything. We were just doing it. So that's like, honestly, I felt focused and felt like one with the machine. There were times when my mind would wander, and I briefly saw the lookout and I should have stopped, but and then thoughts wander into your mind, like I think about home and think about my daughter, think about my wife, those sorts of things. But it seems to be in and out pretty quick. And then it's just kind of like I'm back to the job at hand. Like, this is my job right now, is to get this machine to the finish line as quickly as possible. And I treat it like that as well. Like especially like for that event where I'm representing a brand. I don't want to let them down. And I appreciate all of the support and all of the help that they've given me. So the least I can do is take it seriously and make sure I give them the best possible result that I can give them, right? So it kept me focused, and it just kept me, focused on the machine.
Yeah, that's a great experience, being connected to the machine. And my next question would be, what was your perception of the lasting effect after the rally? How long did you feel anything specific? How long did it last? Was there any effect on your normal day-to-day business? Was it easier to do the job? Was it harder? Were you feeling more happy? Anything like that?
I always feel very, very happy afterwards. Like, get out of the car. It's just smile. I just smile from ear to ear, exhausted, but so happy. And same thing on the bike. Bike is more physically demanding. Like, I can only imagine what Stephanie felt like after finishing the Dacre, because I've never done it on a bike yet. But I already know my entire body is going to feel beat up, and I'm going to have this giant smile on my face, and I'm going to be thinking, like, what did I just do? Why did I just do that? And when's next year's event? Because I want to do it again. All those things. And even days later, go to work. I'm one of the older guys at work, so I kind of get like He's the crotchety old guy. For probably a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks, nobody said that about me. I was happy. If you made a mistake, who cares? It's not a big deal, right? It just makes you feel happy to finish something like that. Have a good result. I mean, whether you have a good result or not, just to finish it, you get that feeling of accomplishment, right? And it felt great. Yeah, it just felt great. It just makes you happy. Just euphoria.
Yeah. And do you think it's easier to solve problems the week later when you're still feeling the effects of it and you're happy, like challenges and problems of everyday living? Do you think it's easier to solve them in that state?
I think maybe. I can't think back to any specific problems that I might have handled differently, but I know in like just general life, like if you're in a good place, you're probably going to handle things better than if you're not, right? So I would think that it would probably help for sure. Like, getting up in the morning, I got sore joints and everything else. Like, but getting up in the morning, it's like for a couple of days, it's just a big smile on your face. It's like my back doesn't hurt that much, my arms don't hurt that much, my shoulder's okay. You don't dwell on those things. But I think maybe if you're having a bad week or a bad month, maybe, I don't know, and maybe when you do wake up, that shoulder hurts a little bit more, and then same thing with problems. Like every problem would seem amplified, I would guess, right? So it probably did help for sure.
Yeah, I'm trying to make a case that when we are involved in activities that get us into that highly enjoyable state, being in the zone, feeling great, we are better people for longer periods of time. And as better people, we can connect better with others, we can solve problems better, we can be more creative. And overall, I think it's important for people to be engaged with their favorite activities that get them going, that bring them passion and joy. And that, I think, overall can be great for us all.
For sure. And I don't know how many times, honestly, like, and I have friends and their wives have said the same things. Like my wife will tell me, like, go ride your dirt bike because you're and she knows when I come home, I'll just be like more malleable, right? So yeah, I mean, it's obviously, my wife notices it. So it's obviously a thing.
Yeah, it's important for us to be connected to who we are and what brings us the most joyful experience. So in closing, what would be your message for those who might be never discovered trails or maybe forgotten about their dirt bikes because the life got in the way? What would be your message for the motorsport community in general?
Well, get out and ride. Just go do it. Stop putting it off, honestly. I put it off for way too long. I mean, I'm only 45, I know, but I wish, like, at the end of the 24-hour race, I said to Stephanie, why didn't I do this 20 years ago when I was fresh, right? But just do it. You got to do it. Like, the time is ticking, whether you do it or not, and you're running out of time. We're constantly running out of time, so don't run out of time. Go and do it. And the biggest thing that was said to me from one of my heroes, if you know rally racing in Canada, Anton Lestage is probably the fastest. He is the most prolific rally racer from Canada ever. And I got to meet him, and it was awesome for me because I love rally racing. And he spent 10 minutes of his time during a rally to talk to me about racing, and I was just like, what do I gotta do? What do I gotta do? And he's just like, seat time, drive stuff, whether it's a dirt bike, whether it's a go-kart. He's just like, whatever you can get your butt into, get it in there and drive, because it all translates somehow. It all helps. So that's what I would tell people. Like, whatever, I know all motorsports is expensive, whether it's dirt bikes are over 10 grand, rally cars, the sky's the limit, right? Whatever you want to get into, it's not cheap. But I started with mountain bikes. I just raced mountain bikes and did a little bit of go-karting. dirt bikes, and even had a rally car at one point. Just do stuff, and don't put it off. You got to do it.
Yeah, and my personal message about that, after I've been hearing all these stories, is that it's important. Whatever it is that you're doing in motorsport is somehow important to you, and it relates to other areas. It's not just isolated area of having fun. It connects to other areas of your life. It connects to the family, it connects to the job, it connects to performance. So it's not the isolated frivolous activity that you get to enjoy. It's actually part of you. So if that's your thing, then you should go out and do it. That's my personal opinion and personal message on that. And so tell us a little bit about what are you focusing on in your business, and what is the future looking like, and where people can find more about that.
For Hell Fury Motorsports, basically Instagram. So just at Hell Fury Motorsports, you can follow along with what me and all the Muppets are doing. For me, it's kind of for Hell Fury Motorsports, it's kind of a rebuild setting. We're trying to build up the team again. We've kind of, we lost our pro guy, which is okay. He had, that's what happens. You got to go. He's got to go where the support is, and I get it. Racing's expensive, so as much support as he can get, he's got to go. So we're still helping him out, but we're looking to again start at the bottom, not at the bottom, but at the beginnings, right? That's where I like to start with people, because I think I can help with the psychology of sport, and then also just making people feel. I think if people feel comfortable when they get to races, they'll perform better. So that was the one thing that I felt, again, when I went to my first couple of races. I just didn't feel comfortable. I felt like I was an outsider. I felt like I shouldn't be here, kind of thing. I want people to go to those races, and I'll, if I'm the only one that's there to make them feel that way, then I will do that, right? I'll make you feel like you belong here. And that's what Hell Fury Motorsports, that's how I was born. That's how I was born. So
yes, and you mainly deal with dirt bike riders?
It doesn't matter. I mean, I have in the past just mainly dealt with dirt bike riders. I myself have a deal with Segway, so I'm going to be doing more side-by-side, more four-wheeler stuff. And I mean, I just bought a brand new dirt bike, so I'm going to do some more dirt bike stuff. But it doesn't matter. I mean, I've had superbike riders, ask me if I wanted to support their program, and you got to weigh everything, right? It just doesn't make sense for me to do that right now with so much focus on dirt, and working with my daughter now with she's riding in motocross. So I've started meeting people in the motocross world, so I might start doing some stuff there too. But yeah, I mean, that's just on Instagram at Hell Fury Motorsports. I mean, I'm on Facebook too, but it's a fiasco. I'm so bad at this stuff. But I post quite a bit of stuff on Instagram, so that's where I'm at. And as for me personally, next year, we'll be doing the Dacre again. We're probably going to do the Northeast 24-hour challenge again. Bunch of us are going to build a team, hopefully. I want to get a real cool group of people to go down there and do that. And then the Dacre, it'll be a solo thing. It's just something about doing things solo, just relying on yourself, and it's just you, and that's it, right? You and your machine, and I love that.
And are you mainly in Ontario, or do you go to other provinces as well?
Yeah, mainly in Ontario, but I mean, we'll go anywhere that there's a cool race to go to. I mean, Matt Mayrind is the pro rider. He's going to do some. I don't know if he did yet or not, but he was going to go do some Quebec stuff. We did a GNCC this year, so that's a cross country race in the States. Yeah, anywhere there's a cool something crazy, that's what I'm all about, like the crazy events. So whatever I can find. I mean, honestly, the Vegas to Reno, that's my dream right now. Baja was always the dream, but I just don't think I can make that work, and I don't think I'm good. I don't trust myself enough as a rider to do it. I don't know if you followed along what Darren Rideout did last year doing the Baja, and he's a phenomenal rider. So I'm not nearly as on his level. So yeah, hats off to him for doing that.
Yeah, well, it sounds like you have a lot of things on the go and a lot of excitement, and we still have a little bit of summer left here in Ontario, so hopefully you can get out and before the winter comes.
Oh yeah, there'll be lots of riding still, lots of riding.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for joining me in this podcast. I hope listeners found a lot of value in this episode. And as I emphasized already, it's important. The motorsport is important for those of us who understand it. So who'll go out and do it and connect with others. And thank you very much for watching and listening. And we'll see you next time.